The morning started like any other Tuesday on Earth. People went to work, children went to school, and nobody looked up at the sky expecting their world to change forever. But at exactly 9:47 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, every television, radio, and internet connection on the planet went dead for 30 seconds. When the signals came back, there was only one message playing everywhere. People of Earth. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking perfect English. We are the Galactic Dominion. Your planet has been selected for integration into our empire. Dr. James Wells was in his lab at the Deep Space Research Center when the broadcast began. He dropped his coffee mug, watching brown liquid spread across years of research notes. On the screen above his desk, a creature that looked like a tall, thin human with gray skin and glowing red eyes stared directly at him. I am Ambassador Krill, the alien continued. I speak for the High Council of the Dominion. We have watched your species for 67 of your years. We have studied your wars, your technology, your weaknesses. President Hayes was in the Oval Office when his chief of staff burst through the door. Sir, you need to see this right now. The president looked at the screen and felt his blood turn cold. Your planet will provide tribute to the Dominion, Ambassador Krill announced. 50% of all natural resources, 30% of your population for labor assignments, complete surrender of all military weapons and vessels. You have 7 standard days to comply. General Brooks was at the Pentagon surrounded by his staff officers. They all stared at the screen in stunned silence. The general's mind was already racing through Earth's defenses. Nuclear missiles, fighter jets, tanks, aircraft carriers, everything suddenly seemed like toys compared to what they were facing. Failure to comply will result in planetary sterilization, the ambassador said with no emotion in his voice. To demonstrate our commitment to this outcome, observe the fate of 3 worlds that chose resistance. The screen changed. It showed a blue-green planet covered with oceans and continents. Cities sparkled with lights across the night side. Then massive ships appeared in orbit. Dark triangular vessels the size of small moons. Beams of pure energy lanced down from the ships. Where they touched, the planet's surface turned to glass. The oceans boiled away. The atmosphere burned. In less than 10 minutes, a living world became a dead rock. This was Velos Prime, Ambassador Krill's voice explained. Population, 4 billion. They refused tribute. The second planet was smaller, covered in red deserts and silver cities. The same ships appeared. The same energy beams fell. The same destruction followed. Keth Minor. Population, 800 million. They also refused. The third world was beautiful with purple seas and golden continents. Its fate was identical to the others. New Taria. Population, 12 billion. Their resistance lasted 6 hours. The screen returned to Ambassador Krill's face. Your species has shown promise in warfare and technology. This is why you are offered the choice of tribute rather than immediate destruction, but make no mistake, the choice is tribute or death. There are no other options. Dr. Wells grabbed his phone and called his assistant. Get me Director Cole at Earth Defense Command. Now. Around the world, leaders were making similar calls. Emergency sessions were being organized. Military commanders were checking their weapons. Scientists were running calculations that all came to the same terrible conclusion. The Dominion fleet will arrive in 7 days, Ambassador Krill continued. Prepare your tribute. We will take what we require and leave your world functional. Resist and we will take everything, leaving nothing but ash and memory. The broadcast ended. Normal television programming resumed. But nothing would ever be normal again. Within an hour, every world leader was on a secure video call. President Hayes looked at the faces of presidents, prime ministers, and kings. They all wore the same expression. Fear mixed with desperate hope that someone somewhere had an answer. What do we know about their technology? Asked Prime Minister Chen of the European Federation. General Brooks pulled up a holographic display. Based on the broadcast, their ships are massive. The energy weapons they used on those planets are beyond anything we've ever seen. Our best nuclear weapons would be like firecrackers against them. What about our space defenses? Asked President Reeves of the African Union. We have 3 combat-ready space stations and maybe 50 armed satellites, General Brooks replied. Against what we just saw, they might as well be paper airplanes. The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Earth was defenseless. But Dr. Wells was thinking about something else. He was thinking about Project Prometheus, hidden deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. He was thinking about the quantum experiments that had been running for 15 years. He was thinking about discoveries that were so classified, even most world leaders didn't know they existed. There might be another option, Dr. Wells said quietly. Every face on the screen turned to him. President Hayes leaned forward. What kind of option, Doctor? I need to speak with Director Cole first. There are some capabilities that most people don't know about. What are you talking about? General Brooks demanded. I oversee all military research. What capabilities? Dr. Wells looked directly at the camera. The kind that might make the Dominion regret coming to Earth. 3 hours later, in a bunker 600 feet beneath the Pentagon, a small group of people gathered around a table. President Hayes was there, along with General Brooks and the heads of the CIA, NSA, and NASA. Dr. Wells sat at the head of the table next to a woman in a black military uniform with no name tag or rank insignia. This is Director Cole, Dr. Wells said. She runs the programs that officially don't exist. Director Cole activated a holographic projector. The room filled with images of strange devices, experimental spacecraft, and weapons that seemed to bend light around them. For the past 15 years, she began, we've been preparing for this day. Not because we knew aliens were coming, but because we knew that someday someone would threaten Earth's survival. General Brooks stared at the images. I've never seen any of this technology. That was the point, Director Cole replied. While everyone was building bigger bombs and faster jets, we were building something different, something that works by changing the rules instead of following them. She pointed to an image of a sleek black spacecraft. This is the prototype for our Ghost Fleet, ships that exist in multiple dimensions at once, weapons that don't destroy targets. They convince reality that the targets never existed in the first place. President Hayes felt a spark of hope for the first time since the broadcast. Are you saying we can fight them? Director Cole smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. Sir, I'm saying we can do something much better than fight them. We can show them what happens when you threaten humanity. Outside, people were panicking. The stock markets had crashed. Riots were starting in major cities. Religious leaders were calling it the end times. But deep beneath the Earth's surface, in facilities that didn't appear on any map, machines were humming to life. Machines that would soon teach the Galactic Dominion a lesson they would never forget. The countdown had begun. 7 days until the Dominion fleet arrived. 7 days until they learned why you should never corner a species that has spent its entire history finding new ways to kill its enemies. The elevator descended for what felt like forever. President Hayes watched the numbers on the display climb higher and higher. Level 50, 60, 70. They were going deeper underground than he thought possible. How deep does this go? He asked Director Cole. Deep enough that even nuclear weapons can't reach us, she replied. And deep enough that alien sensors can't detect what we're building down here. General Brooks stood beside them, still angry about being kept in the dark. I want to know why my own government has been hiding this from me. Dr. Wells adjusted his glasses. Because 15 years ago, we discovered something that changed everything. We found out that the universe doesn't work the way we thought it did. The elevator stopped at level 89. The doors opened to reveal a corridor that stretched beyond sight in both directions. The walls were lined with a strange metal that seemed to shift color when you looked at it directly. Welcome to the Prometheus facility, Director Cole said as they walked, home to humanity's greatest achievement and biggest secret. They passed through multiple security checkpoints. Each one scanned them with devices that looked nothing like normal technology. The scanners hummed with energy that made the hair on their arms stand up. What exactly is Project Prometheus? President Hayes asked. It started as an attempt to understand quantum mechanics, Dr. Wells explained. But we discovered something incredible. Reality isn't fixed. It can be changed, rewritten, edited like a computer program. They entered a massive chamber that took their breath away. The room was the size of an aircraft hangar, filled with machines that defied description. Some floated in midair without any visible support. Others seemed to exist only partially, fading in and out of view like mirages. Dr. Martinez approached them from across the room. She was a small woman with tired eyes, but her smile was bright with excitement. "Mr. President, you need to see what we've accomplished." She led them to a platform overlooking the facility's main workspace. Below, technicians in special suits worked on devices that hurt to look at directly. The machines bent light around them, creating rainbow patterns in the air. 16 years ago, we intercepted a radio signal from deep space, Dr. Martinez began. It wasn't alien communication. It was something much more interesting. It was raw data about how reality itself is constructed. General Brooks frowned. "I don't understand. What do you mean how reality is constructed?" "Think of reality like a computer program," Dr. Wells said simply. "Everything you see, everything you touch, it's all just information. And if you know the right codes, you can edit that information." Dr. Martinez activated a holographic display. It showed a small metal cube sitting on a table. "Watch this," she said, typing commands into a console. The cube began to change. First, it became a sphere, then a pyramid, then something that had too many sides to count. Finally, it simply wasn't there anymore. "Where did it go?" President Hayes asked. "Nowhere," Dr. Martinez replied. "We convinced reality that it never existed in the first place. It's not destroyed or hidden. It literally never was." General Brooks stared at the empty table. "That's impossible. So is faster than light travel, but the aliens do it," Director Cole said. "The difference is, they're still following the old rules. We learned to make new ones." They moved deeper into the facility. Captain Torres met them at the next section, standing beside something that looked like a spacecraft but wrong somehow. It was there and not there at the same time, existing in a state that made their eyes water. "This is the ghost ship prototype," Captain Torres explained. "It exists in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. When it moves, it doesn't travel through space. It chooses which version of space it wants to exist in." "How fast can it go?" General Brooks asked. "Speed isn't the right question," Torres replied. "It doesn't move fast. It just decides to be somewhere else, and then it is." President Hayes felt his worldview cracking. "How long have you been building these things?" 12 years for the ships," Director Cole answered. "But the weapons have been in development for longer." She led them to another chamber. This one was filled with devices that looked deceptively simple, small metal boxes with glowing panels, but the air around them shimmered with barely contained energy. Commander Nash stepped forward to greet them. He was a young man with the confident bearing of someone who had seen impossible things and learned to accept them. "These are quantum disruptors," he explained, gesturing to the devices. "They don't shoot bullets or energy beams. They rewrite the fundamental laws of physics in a small area around the target." "What does that do?" President Hayes asked. "Imagine if gravity suddenly worked backwards for your enemy's ship," Nash said. "Or if the strong nuclear force just stopped working in their hull. Their atoms would literally fall apart." Dr. Wells pulled up another display, but the real breakthrough came 5 years ago. We learned to weaponize time itself. The display showed a strange device that seemed to exist in fast forward and slow motion at the same time. Around it, the air moved in impossible patterns. "We call it a temporal anchor," Dr. Wells explained. "It can age a target by thousands of years in seconds, or reverse its timeline until it becomes raw materials." General Brooks finally found his voice. "Why wasn't I told about any of this?" "Because we needed the aliens to underestimate us," Director Cole said simply. "Every intelligence agency in the galaxy has been watching Earth for decades. They've seen our nuclear weapons, our jets, our satellites. They think they know what we're capable of. But they don't know about this," President Hayes said, understanding dawning in his eyes. Exactly. They've studied human warfare for 67 years, just like their ambassador said. But they've only seen the warfare we wanted them to see. Admiral Kane joined them, appearing seemingly from nowhere. He was an older man with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. The Sol defense grid has been operational for 3 years, he reported. 237 quantum weapons platforms, disguised as communication satellites, each one capable of rewriting local physics in a sphere 10,000 kilometers across. And the fleet? Director Cole asked. 47 ghost ships ready for deployment, each one crewed by volunteers who understand they'll be fighting in 17 dimensions at once. President Hayes looked around at the impossible technology surrounding him. Can we actually win against the Dominion? Director Cole's smile was cold and sharp. Sir, we're not going to win against them. We're going to do something much worse. What's worse than losing? General Brooks asked. Making them wish they'd never heard of Earth, Admiral Kane replied. Making them understand that humans don't just fight wars. We reinvent what war means. Dr. Martinez activated one final display. It showed a map of the solar system, dotted with thousands of energy signatures that had been invisible to alien sensors. They think they're coming to collect tribute from a primitive species, she said. Instead, they're walking into a trap that violates every law of physics they understand. The countdown is at 6 days, Commander Nash reported. All systems are green. Quantum anchors are charged. The Ghost Fleet is ready for deployment. President Hayes took a deep breath. For the first time since the alien broadcast, he felt something other than fear. He felt anticipation. What's our first move when they arrive? He asked. Director Cole looked at the displays showing humanity's secret weapons, technology that could rewrite reality itself, ships that existed in multiple dimensions, and weapons that turned the laws of physics into suggestions. We give them exactly what they asked for, she said quietly. We give them tribute, just not the kind they're expecting. Above them, on the surface world, people were still panicking. Governments were debating surrender. The media was calling it humanity's darkest hour. But deep beneath the earth, in chambers that shouldn't exist, filled with technology that couldn't work, humanity's greatest minds were preparing to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Shocked, aliens thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were about to learn they were wrong. 7 days had passed since the ultimatum. Around the world, people held their breath and watched the skies. News channels showed empty streets in major cities. Some people had fled to underground shelters. Others gathered in churches, temples, and mosques to pray. Many simply sat at home with their families waiting. But in the hidden chambers beneath the earth, humanity's defenders were ready. Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's flagship that existed in 17 dimensions at once. Through the impossible viewscreen, he could see normal space, hyperspace, and 14 other realities layered on top of each other. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, their special suits allowing them to interact with controls that existed in multiple dimensions. Sir, alien ships are entering the outer solar system, reported Lieutenant Fox from her station. Her console showed energy readings that would have been meaningless to any human from a week ago. Admiral Kane's voice came through the quantum communicator from Earth Defense Command. All stations, this is Control. Operation Prometheus is now active, remember. We give them one chance to leave. After that, we show them what humans really are. Fleet Commander Vex stood in the command center of his massive dreadnought, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to turn continents into ash. Behind him, 300 more warships of the Dominion, fleet spread across space like a dark cloud. Communications officer, send the final demand, Vex ordered. His voice carried the authority of someone who had conquered 47 worlds. The message broadcast to Earth was simple. Your time is finished. Prepare for collection of tribute. Any resistance will result in immediate planetary cleansing. In the Earth Defense Command Center, Director Cole sat at a console that hummed with quantum energy. Around her, Screens showed the positions of every alien ship, every hidden human weapon, and probability calculations that changed faster than human eyes could follow. "Sir, they're moving into the inner system," reported Commander Nash. 300 ships total. The largest is impressive. President Hayes stood behind Director Cole, watching humanity's fate unfold on screens that showed impossible mathematics. "How do we compare?" "In traditional terms?" "They outgun us 1,000,000 to 1, Cole replied calmly. "But we stopped fighting. Traditionally, 15 years ago, Dr. Wells monitored the quantum field generators from his station. All reality anchors are stable. Physics is holding steady in our local area, ready to initiate changes on your command." The alien fleet moved into Earth's orbit with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. Their ships arranged themselves in a perfect formation designed to intimidate and overwhelm. Gunports opened, energy weapons charged. Shield generators hummed with power. Fleet Commander Vex looked down at the blue-green planet below. Such a beautiful world. It will make an excellent addition to the Dominion. Communications, prepare to receive their surrender. Instead, Earth's response came from an unexpected source. "Alien Fleet, this is Director Cole of Earth Defense Command," the transmission began. The voice was calm, almost polite. "Thank you for your ultimatum. We have prepared our tribute as requested." Vex smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Intelligent species. They understand the futility of resistance. However," Cole continued, "our tribute is not what you might expect. You demanded 50% of our resources, 30% of our population, and all our military assets. Here is our counteroffer. You have 30 seconds to leave our system. After that, you become the tribute." The alien command bridge fell silent. Vex's communications officer looked confused. "Sir, I don't understand their response." "They're trying to sound brave before they surrender," Vex laughed. "Typical primitive behavior. Begin the demonstration. Destroy one of their cities to show them we're serious." The lead dreadnought's main weapon began to charge. Energy readings climbed toward levels that could vaporize mountains. The massive gun turret rotated toward Earth's surface. That's when humanity decided to introduce the Dominion to new rules of warfare. "Execute Operation Prometheus," Director Cole said quietly. Deep beneath the Earth, Dr. Martinez typed a single command into her console. Quantum anchor activated. The Dominion's lead dreadnought simply ceased to exist. Not exploded, not destroyed, not vaporized. One moment it was there, 5 kilometers of alien death machine, and the next moment it had never been there at all. The space it occupied became empty vacuum, as if the ship had never existed. Fleet Commander Vex found himself floating in space. His command ship gone, his crew gone, everything gone. Emergency protocols kicked in as his environmental suit activated, but his mind couldn't process what had happened. "Report!" he screamed into his communicator. "What happened to my ship?" "Sir, the Eternal Dominion is gone," came a terrified voice from another vessel. "It's not destroyed, it's just not there anymore." Captain Reed watched from the bridge of the Defiance as the alien fleet panicked. Impressive. They removed a 5-kilometer ship from existence without affecting the surrounding space, not even a ripple. "Sir, alien fleet is attempting to retreat," Lieutenant Fox reported. "Too late for that," Reed replied. "All ships, execute Phase 2. The Ghost Fleet shimmered into visibility around the alien formation. 47 human ships appeared simultaneously in 17 different dimensions, surrounding the Dominion vessels in a cage of impossible geometry. Commander Nash activated the Sol defense grid. 200 hidden satellites revealed themselves, their quantum weapons charging with energy that made space itself bend and twist. "Alien Fleet, this is Captain Reed of the Earth Defense Force," he broadcast. "You wanted tribute. Allow us to demonstrate what humanity considers a fair exchange." The nearest Dominion cruiser tried to fire its weapons. The energy beams emerged. From the gun ports traveled 3 meters, then aged 10,000 years in an instant, becoming nothing but scattered particles. "Temporal anchor engaged," Dr. Wells reported from Earth. Their weapons are aging to dust before they can reach us. Another alien ship attempted to jump to hyperspace. Its drive engaged, the ship began to phase into faster-than-light travel, then suddenly snapped back to normal space with half its hull missing. "Dimensional lock successful," reported Lieutenant Fox. "They can't escape to hyperspace. We've convinced reality that hyperspace doesn't exist in this area." Fleet Commander Vex, now commanding from a backup ship, watched his fleet die in ways that violated everything he understood about warfare. His ship's shields turned against them, becoming prisons that compressed their hulls. Their own gravity generators reversed, tearing vessels apart from the inside. "What are these weapons?" he demanded from his science officer. "Sir, they're not using weapons," came the terrified reply. "They're changing the laws of physics. Our shields obey their commands now. Our own systems are turning against us." A Dominion battleship tried to ram one of the human vessels. The Defiance simply existed in a different set of dimensions as the alien ship passed harmlessly through the space where it appeared to be. "Fascinating," Captain Reed observed. "They're still thinking three-dimensionally." Dr. Martinez activated another system from her underground control room. Quantum disruptor, engaged, converting their hull materials to component elements. The ramming battleship began to dissolve. Its metal hull separated into individual atoms which floated away in neat, organized patterns. The crew inside found themselves breathing vacuum, their ship literally forgetting how to be solid. In less than 10 minutes, the Dominion's fleet of 300 warships was reduced to scattered debris and escape pods. Not one human vessel had been damaged. Not one human life had been lost. Fleet Commander Vex floated in an escape pod, staring at the impossible scene around him. His entire fleet, the pride of the Dominion military, had been destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist using physics that couldn't work. "This is Fleet Commander Vex to any Dominion vessels," he broadcast desperately. "Retreat immediately. Earth is not a primitive world. They have weapons that rewrite reality itself." Captain Reed's voice responded to his broadcast. "Commander Vex, you're free to leave. Take this message back to your empire. Earth is under human protection now. Any attempt to return will be met with escalating responses." "What do you want? From us?" Vex asked, his voice broken. "Nothing," Reed replied. "We want nothing from you. But if you threaten any world under our protection, we'll come for you. And next time, we won't be so gentle." As the surviving alien escape pods fled toward the edge of the solar system, Earth's impossible weapons powered down. The quantum anchors stabilized. The Ghost Fleet phased back into their hidden dimensions. Director Cole turned to President Hayes in the command center. "Sir, the alien fleet has been neutralized. Earth is secure." President Hayes looked at the displays showing empty space where 300 alien warships had existed minutes before. "What happens now?" "Now we send a message to the galaxy," Cole replied. "Earth is no longer prey, we're the predators now." Above them on the surface world, people emerged from their shelters to see the stars unchanged. They didn't know that humanity had just rewritten the rules of galactic warfare. But across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear of the Dominion for thousands of years were about to learn that everything had changed. The hunters had become the hunted. Day 7 arrived with clear skies across Earth. In New York, London, Tokyo, and every major city, people stayed inside and watched the news. Emergency broadcasts played on every channel, showing empty highways and closed schools. The world held its breath. But deep under the Colorado mountains, Captain Reed adjusted his uniform and walked onto the bridge of humanity's most impossible creation. The Defiance existed in multiple realities at once, its hull shimmering between dimensions like oil on water. "Status report," Reed said to his crew. Lieutenant Fox checked her instruments. The readings showed energy patterns that would have been magic to humans just days ago. "Sir, long-range sensors detect 300 alien vessels entering our solar system." "Size and weaponry?" Reed asked calmly. "The largest ship is 5 kilometers long. Energy output suggests it could destroy entire continents. The smaller vessels could level cities." Reed nodded. "And our fleet?" 47 ghost ships ready, sir. all existing in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Quantum weapons charged and ready. On Earth's surface, Admiral Kane stood in the main command center, watching displays that showed impossible mathematics. Around him, technicians worked at consoles that hummed with barely contained energy. "Admiral, the alien fleet is broadcasting," reported Commander Nash. The message filled every screen in the facility. Fleet Commander Vex appeared, a tall, gray-skinned alien with glowing red eyes and an expression of cold authority. "Humans of Earth," Vex began, his voice echoing with the power of someone who had conquered dozens of worlds. "Your 7 days are finished. We have come to collect our tribute. 50% of your resources, 30% of your population, all military assets. Comply now, or face extinction." Admiral Kane activated his own broadcast transmitter. "This is Admiral Kane of Earth Defense Command. We have prepared your tribute as requested." On his flagship, Fleet Commander Vex smiled with sharp teeth. "Intelligent. They understand that resistance means death. However," Kane continued, "our tribute may surprise you. You wanted our military assets. Here they are." Around Earth's orbit, 200 satellites suddenly changed. What had appeared to be simple communication devices revealed their true nature. Each one unfolded like a metal flower, exposing quantum weapon cores that made space itself ripple with power. "What are those?" demanded Vex's science officer. "Unknown, sir. They're generating energy readings that shouldn't be possible." Meanwhile, in the deep underground facility, Dr. Wells monitored systems that violated every law of physics he had learned in school. All quantum anchors stable. Reality manipulation field at full power. Director Cole sat at the main control station, her fingers poised over controls that could rewrite the fundamental rules of existence. "Alien fleet is moving into attack formation. Time to show them what humans really are." President Hayes stood, behind her, watching humanity's fate unfold on screens showing mathematics that bent his mind. "Are we really going to win this?" "Sir, we're not going to win," Cole replied with a cold smile. "We're going to teach them why they should never have come here." The Dominion fleet arranged itself in perfect formation above Earth. 300 warships, each one capable of destroying human cities, their weapons charging with enough energy to crack continents. Fleet Commander Vex looked down at the blue planet below. Soon it would be another conquered world in the Dominion's empire, another species reduced to slavery. "Begin the demonstration," he ordered. "Destroy one of their cities. Show them the price of defiance." The main gun of his flagship began to charge. Energy readings climbed toward levels that could vaporize mountains. The massive weapon rotated toward Earth's surface, targeting a cluster of lights that marked a human city. That's when humanity decided to introduce the galaxy to new rules of warfare. "Execute Prometheus Protocol," Director Cole said quietly into her communicator. In her underground laboratory, Dr. Martinez typed a single command: "Quantum anchor engaging. Target locked." Fleet Commander Vex watched his main display as the weapon reached full charge. "Fire," he commanded. The weapon fired. Energy blazed toward Earth's surface. Then the energy beam simply stopped existing, not blocked, not deflected. The beam fired, traveled 3 meters from the gun, then aged 10,000 years in an instant, and crumbled to dust. "What happened?" Vex demanded. "Why didn't our weapon reach the target?" His science officer stared at impossible readings. "Sir, the energy beam. It got old. Somehow it aged and died before it could travel." But that was just the beginning. "Initiating Phase 2, Captain Reed announced from the Defiance. "All ships, reveal yourselves." 47 human vessels shimmered into existence around the alien fleet. They appeared simultaneously in normal space, hyperspace, and 15 other dimensions surrounding the Dominion ships in a cage of impossible geometry. Fleet Commander Vex stared at his tactical display. "Where did those ships come from? How did they get past our sensors?" "Sir, they weren't there, and then they were," his tactical officer replied, voice shaking. "Our sensors say they exist in multiple realities at once." "Impossible. Ships can't exist in multiple dimensions. Apparently human ships can, sir. The nearest Dominion cruiser tried to fire at one of the human vessels. Energy beams lanced out from its weapons, striking the target directly. The beams passed harmlessly through the human ship as if it were made of mist. "Target the ship," Vex screamed. "We are targeting it, sir. Our weapons are hitting it, but it's existing in different dimensions than our energy beams." Captain Reed watched the alien weapons fire uselessly at his fleet. "Pathetic. They're still thinking in 3 dimensions. Commence the tribute collection." Dr. Wells activated another system from his underground station. Dimensional lock engaged. Their escape routes are now closed. 3 Dominion ships tried to jump to hyperspace. Their drives engaged. The ships began to phase into faster-than-light travel, then suddenly snapped back to normal space with pieces missing. "Sir, we can't. Jump to hyperspace," reported a panicked alien voice. "Something is blocking our access. The humans have locked us in normal space," Vex's science officer reported. "They've somehow convinced reality that hyperspace doesn't exist here." Fleet Commander Vex felt fear for the first time in his long military career. "What kind of weapons are these?" His answer came from Captain Reed's broadcast to the alien fleet. "These aren't weapons, Commander. We're simply editing the rules of physics in our local area. Your ships now obey our commands." To demonstrate, Reed activated another system. The shields of the nearest Dominion battleship suddenly reversed themselves, becoming a crushing force that compressed the ship's hull like a tin can. "Our own shields are attacking us," screamed the battleship's captain before his transmission cut to static. Another alien vessel tried to ram the Defiance. The human ship simply chose to exist in a different set of dimensions as the alien vessel, passed harmlessly through empty space. "Impossible," whispered Vex. "Ships can't choose where to exist." "Human ships can," Reed replied, somehow hearing his comment. "We've taught our vessels to exist wherever they want to be." Dr. Martinez activated her final system. Quantum disruptor online, converting enemy hulls to component atoms. The ramming ship began to dissolve, its metal hull separating into individual atoms that floated away in perfect geometric patterns. The crew found themselves breathing vacuum as their ship forgot how to be solid. In less than 15 minutes, 300 Dominion warships became floating debris. Not one human vessel had been scratched. Not one human life had been lost. Fleet Commander Vex floated in an escape pod, staring at the impossible destruction around him. His entire fleet, representing the best of Dominion military might, had been destroyed by weapons that rewrote reality itself. "This is Vex to any Dominion vessels," he broadcast desperately. "Retreat immediately. Earth has weapons that change the laws of physics. We cannot fight them." Captain Reed's voice responded calmly. "Commander Vex, you're free to leave. Take this message to your empire. Earth is under human protection. Any further threats will receive escalating responses." "What do you want from the Dominion?" Vex asked, his voice broken. "Nothing," Reed replied. "We want nothing from your empire. But if you threaten Earth again, we'll visit your worlds. And we won't be as gentle next time." As the few surviving escape pods fled toward deep space, Earth's weapons powered down. The quantum anchors stabilized. The Ghost Fleet faded back into their hidden dimensions. In the command center, President Hayes stared at displays showing empty space where hundreds of alien ships had existed minutes before. "What happens now?" he asked Director Cole. "Now the galaxy learns that humans don't just fight wars," she replied. "We reinvent what warfare means." Above them, people emerged from shelters to see unchanged stars, not knowing that humanity had just become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The tribute had been paid, but not by Earth. 2 weeks after the battle at Earth, the Dominion's High Council gathered in their capital city on the world of Nexus Prime. The massive chamber had witnessed the conquest of 2,000 civilizations. Today, it hosted an emergency session that would determine the Empire's survival. Archon Vel, supreme ruler of the Dominion, sat on his throne of black metal and stared at the surviving officers from the Earth expedition. His red eyes burned with fury and something else, fear. "Explain to me." Bell said slowly. How 300 of our finest warships were destroyed by a primitive world that barely has space travel. Fleet Commander Vex stood before the council, his uniform torn and his confidence shattered. Archon, they have weapons that change reality itself. Our ships didn't just explode. They stopped existing. Their vessels exist in multiple dimensions at once. Impossible, declared General Kane, the Dominion's chief military strategist. No species has ever developed such technology. Tell that to my dead crews, Vex replied bitterly. I watched a 5-kilometer dreadnought simply vanish. Not destroyed. It never was. Their weapons age our energy beams to dust. Their ships phase through our attacks like we're shooting at ghosts. Archon Vel leaned forward. You're telling me that humans can rewrite the laws of physics? Yes, Archon, and they're not done with us. Before Vel could respond, his communications officer burst into the chamber. Archon, we're receiving reports from the outer colonies. Human ships have been sighted in 7 systems. What? Vel stood from his throne. Show me. The chamber filled with holographic displays showing star maps. Red dots marked Dominion worlds under attack. But the attack patterns made no sense. The humans weren't conquering. They were hunting. On the world of Keth Prime, Commander Park stood in the ruins of what had been the Dominion's largest military base. Around him, his soldiers searched through empty bunkers and vacant barracks. Status report, Park said into his communicator. Lieutenant Mills checked her scanner. Sir, the base is completely empty. No bodies, no debris, no signs of battle. It's like the entire military installation just wasn't here anymore. Park nodded. This was the 7th Dominion base they had found in the same condition. Any civilians harmed? None, sir. The nearby city is untouched. The humans left the population completely alone. That was the pattern everywhere. Human forces would arrive. At a Dominion world, remove every military installation from existence, then broadcast a simple message to the civilian population. You are free. The Dominion no longer controls this world. Evacuate military personnel immediately. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Reed monitored the hunt's progress. His ship phased between dimensions as it traveled from system to system, impossible distances covered in moments. Sir, we've cleared 12 systems, reported Lieutenant Fox. All Dominion military assets removed. Civilian populations are intact and have been warned. Excellent. What's our next target? The fortress world of Sec Major. Intelligence suggests it's a major training facility for Dominion officers. Reed smiled grimly. Time to give them a lesson they'll never forget. Back on Nexus Prime, panic spread through the Dominion command structure. Reports flooded in from across the Empire. Military bases simply vanishing. Warships found floating. In space, their crews aged to dust while their hulls remained pristine. Orbital defense platforms that had existed for centuries suddenly becoming empty space. How many systems have we lost? Archon Vel demanded. General Kane consulted his reports with shaking hands. 15 systems in the past week. But that's not the worst part. They're not taking the worlds, they're freeing them. What do you mean, freeing them? The humans remove our military presence completely, then broadcast messages telling the population they're no longer under Dominion rule. Several worlds have already declared independence. Vel's fury burned hotter. How many ships do the humans have? Our scouts report seeing the same vessels in multiple locations simultaneously. Either they have thousands of ships, or their vessels can exist in many places at once. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Humanity had 47 ghost ships, but each one existed in 17 dimensions. From the aliens' perspective, it looked like an endless fleet appearing everywhere at once. On the mining world of Breck 7, Sergeant Miles stood watching Dominion soldiers load onto transport ships. The aliens moved quickly, their faces filled with terror. None of them wanted to be present when the humans decided to make the military base disappear. Sir, the last transport is leaving, reported Corporal Davis. The mining colony is now free of Dominion military presence. Miles activated his communicator. Control, this is Bravo Team. Breck 7 is clear. The miners have been informed they're no longer slaves. Director Cole's voice came back from Earth. Acknowledged, Bravo team. Proceed to your next target. Miles looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, the Dominion Empire was crumbling. Not through conquest or invasion, but through precision strikes that removed their ability to control others. The pattern was always the same. Human ships would appear without warning. Dominion military forces would try to fight back. Their weapons would age to dust. Their ships would dissolve into atoms, or they would simply stop existing. Then the humans would broadcast their message and move on. Within a month, the Dominion had lost control of 50 star systems, not through territorial conquest, but through the systematic removal of their military power. On Nexus Prime, Archon, Fel called another emergency council session. The chamber was half empty. Many council members had fled to distant worlds, hoping to escape the human hunt. Status report, Vel demanded from the remaining generals. We've lost 60% of our outer territories, reported Admiral Chen, the only high-ranking officer brave enough to deliver the news. The humans aren't interested in ruling the worlds they free. They just remove our ability to control them and leave. What about our core worlds? Still secure, but for how long? These humans can appear anywhere, anytime. Our defenses are useless against weapons that rewrite reality. Vel slammed his fist on the throne. There must be something we can do. We are the Dominion. We have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Archon, Admiral Chen said quietly. Perhaps we should consider negotiation. Negotiation? Vel's voice rose to a roar. With primitive humans? They're not primitive anymore. They're the most advanced military force in the galaxy. And they're systematically dismantling our empire. Before Vel could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the capital city. Emergency broadcasts filled every screen. Human vessels detected in the Nexus. System. All military personnel report to emergency stations immediately. Captain Reed materialized on the bridge of the Defiance in orbit above Nexus Prime. Through the view screen, he could see the Dominion capital, a massive city of spires and towers that housed the government of a galactic empire. Sir, the planet has substantial military defenses, reported Lieutenant Fox. Orbital platforms, surface-to-space cannons, fighter squadrons. Are there civilian populations mixed with the military installations? Reed asked. Yes, sir. The capital city has both government buildings and residential areas. Reed considered this. Humanity's new doctrine was precise. Remove military threats while protecting civilians. But this would require delicate work. Activate the precision. Quantum disruptors, he ordered. We're going to perform surgery on their capital. Dr. Wells's voice came through the quantum communicator from Earth. Captain, the disruptors are calibrated for surgical precision. You can remove specific buildings while leaving others untouched. Excellent. Begin the operation. On Nexus Prime, Archon Vel watched from his palace as impossible things began happening to his capital. Military barracks simply vanished, leaving empty lots between untouched civilian homes. Weapons factories disappeared, while the schools next to them remained perfectly intact. The orbital defense platforms aged to dust in seconds, but the space stations housing civilian workers continued operating normally. They're taking apart our military piece by piece, Admiral Chen whispered in amazement. But they're not harming anyone else. Vel realized the truth with growing horror. The humans weren't conquering the Dominion. They were performing a precise amputation, removing the Empire's ability to wage war while leaving everything else intact. Captain Reed broadcast to the planet below. Nexus Prime, this is Captain Reed of the Earth Defense Force. Your military installations have been neutralized. Civilian populations are unharmed and will remain so. This is your final warning. The Dominion Empire is finished. Surrender now, or we will continue removing your ability to threaten others. In his palace, Archon Vel stared at the empty spaces where his greatest weapons had stood just minutes before. His empire, built over 3 millennia of conquest, was being methodically dismantled by a species they had underestimated. For the first time in his long life, the supreme ruler of the Dominion understood what it meant to be prey. The hunt was almost over, and humanity was just getting started. 6 months had passed since the Dominion first demanded tribute from Earth. Now, Archon Vel stood alone in his throne room, staring out at a capital city that had become a shadow of its former power. Half the military installations were gone, erased from existence by human weapons. The other half stood empty, their personnel fled to distant worlds. "Archon," came a voice from behind him. Admiral Chen entered the chamber, her uniform wrinkled and her eyes tired. "We've received reports from our last 3 military strongholds." Vel turned slowly. "Let me guess. The humans found them." "Yes, sir. Fortress Omega, the Keth defense grid, and our training academy on Vel Prime. All military assets removed. All personnel given 24 hours to evacuate." Vel laughed bitterly. 24 hours, how generous of them. It had become the human pattern. Arrive without warning, remove every weapon and military installation from existence, then broadcast the same message. Military forces have 24 hours to evacuate. Civilian populations are safe and free. "How many worlds have we lost?" Vel asked. "All of them," Chen replied quietly. "Every world in the Empire has declared independence. We control nothing beyond this palace." On Earth, President Hayes stood in the same command center where humanity's fate had been decided 6 months earlier. But now the displays showed a very different galaxy, one where the Dominion Empire existed only as a memory. "Final report," Director Cole announced to the assembled leaders. "The Dominion military has been completely neutralized. Every weapon, every base, every warship has been removed from existence." "Casualties?" asked General Brooks. "0 human casualties. 0 civilian casualties among former Dominion populations," reported Admiral Kane. "Our precision was perfect." Dr. Wells looked up from his monitoring station. "The galaxy is responding positively. 17 former Dominion worlds have requested Earth's protection. 43 have established peaceful governments. No conflicts reported." President Hayes felt a strange mix of pride and responsibility. "What about the Dominion leadership?" "Archon Vel and his remaining council are on Nexus Prime. No military assets left, no ability to threaten anyone," Cole replied. "They're effectively powerless." Meanwhile, Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the final act unfold. His ship hung in orbit above Nexus Prime, along with the entire human fleet. 47 ghost ships existing in 17 dimensions, surrounding the Dominion capital in a display of power that was both magnificent and terrifying. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," reported Lieutenant Fox. "Put it through." The view screen showed Archon Vel, looking older and more tired than when this all began. The supreme ruler of a dead empire spoke with a voice that carried no authority. "Captain Reed," Vel began, "I request permission to speak with your leaders." "You're speaking to them now," Reed replied. "I have full authority to negotiate on behalf of Earth. Then I formally surrender the Dominion Empire to human authority." Reed was quiet for a moment. "We don't want your empire, Archon. We never did." "Then what do you want?" "Nothing from you. But we want something for the galaxy. Peace. No more conquered worlds. No more enslaved populations. No more tribute demanded from the defenseless." Vel's shoulders sagged. "The Dominion is finished. Our military is gone. Our weapons are destroyed. We have no power left." "Good," Reed said simply. That was the point. On Nexus Prime, in the abandoned halls of the Dominion High Council, the remaining government officials gathered for their final meeting. The chamber that had once echoed with plans for conquest now held only a handful of broken leaders. "What happens to us now?" asked General Kane, the last remaining military officer. Vel looked around the empty chamber. "The humans have made their position clear. We're free to live on any world we choose, as long as we never again attempt to build a military force." "They're not going to execute us?" asked another council member. "Apparently not. They seem more interested in preventing future wars than punishing past ones." Admiral Chen accessed her personal communicator. "Sir, I'm receiving reports from across the former empire. The humans are establishing something they call the Galactic Protection Agreement. What does that mean? Any world can request human protection from invasion or conquest. In return, they promise to settle disputes peacefully and never to attack other worlds. Vel understood. The humans weren't building an empire. They were building something far more dangerous to would-be conquerors. They were building peace. Back on Earth, Dr. Martinez worked in her laboratory making final adjustments to humanity's new role in the galaxy. The quantum weapons that had destroyed the Dominion were being reconfigured for a different purpose. Status. On the protection grid? Asked Director Cole over the intercom. Almost complete, Martinez replied. We're establishing quantum monitoring stations in key systems. If anyone tries to build conquest fleets like the Dominion, we'll know immediately. And response time? With the Ghost Fleet's dimensional capabilities, we can reach any threatened world within hours. The galaxy was learning new rules. Species that had lived in fear for millennia were discovering that they could develop peacefully without worrying about invasion. Trade flourished between worlds that had once been enemies. Scientific advancement accelerated when resources weren't needed for weapons. But the most important change was psychological. Every species in the galaxy now knew that there was a force watching, waiting, ready to respond to any attempt at conquest with overwhelming and precise retaliation. 3 months later, Captain Reed received an unexpected visitor on the Defiance. Ambassador Tren of the Velka Republic, a species that had been enslaved by the Dominion for 800 years, stood on his bridge. Captain Reed, Tren began, my people wish to express their gratitude. No thanks necessary, Ambassador. We did what needed to be done. But why? Tren asked. You gained nothing from freeing us. You asked for no tribute, no territory, no resources. Why did you help us? Reed looked out at the stars through the view screen. Because someone needed to. The Dominion ruled through fear for 3,000 years. They convinced the galaxy that conquest was natural, that the strong should prey on the weak. And you proved them wrong. We proved that there's another way. The strong can protect the weak instead of exploiting them. Back on Nexus Prime, Vel spent his days in a small apartment, no longer a ruler but simply an old man reflecting on his choices. He had received an offer from the humans, come to Earth and help establish guidelines for peaceful governance, share knowledge of what had made the Dominion so destructive so it could never happen again. He had accepted. On his last day as a free citizen of Nexus Prime, Vel recorded a message that would be broadcast across the galaxy. I am Vel, former Archon of the Dominion Empire. For 3 millennia, my people ruled through fear and violence. We told ourselves it was natural that conquest was the way of the universe. We were wrong. He paused, looking at the empty palace visible through his window. The humans taught us, a lesson that every species should remember. True strength isn't the ability to conquer others, it's the wisdom to protect them. The Dominion demanded tribute from Earth. Instead, Earth gave the galaxy something far more valuable: freedom. 1 year after the first human victory, President Hayes stood before the United Nations, addressing not just Earth's leaders but representatives from 200 worlds across the galaxy. Today marks the first anniversary of the Galactic Protection Agreement, he began. 200 worlds have joined. 0 conflicts have occurred between member species. Trade has increased by 400%. Scientific cooperation has advanced our understanding of the universe by decades. The audience, human and alien alike, listened in respectful silence. But most importantly, Hayes continued, children across the galaxy are growing up in a universe where they don't have to fear conquest or enslavement. They can dream of exploration, discovery, and cooperation instead of war. In the back of the assembly hall, Director Cole watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. The weapons that had destroyed an empire now protected a galaxy. The species that had learned to rewrite physics now used that knowledge to rewrite the rules of civilization itself. The Dominion had demanded tribute from Earth. Instead, they had given humanity a purpose that would last for millennia, ensuring that no species would ever again have to choose between slavery and death. The galaxy, had learned a new phrase, spoken in dozens of languages across hundreds of worlds. They're only human, but now it meant something different. It meant that sometimes being human was exactly what the universe needed. The Empire had fallen. In its place rose something better. Not another empire, but a promise that conquest would never again be tolerated. The tribute had been paid in full. The price was tyranny itself. The research ship Harmony's Dream drifted silently through the cold darkness of space. Inside the vessel, panic filled every corridor and room. Red warning lights flashed on and off, casting scary shadows on the walls. The ship's computer kept repeating the same message over and over. System failure, life support critical, system failure, life support critical. Captain Vell pressed his long, thin fingers against his forehead. His blue skin had turned pale with worry. Around him, his crew worked frantically at their control panels, trying to fix what could not be fixed. Sparks flew from broken machines. The air was getting thinner with each passing minute. "Captain," called out his second officer, Nira. Her crystal-like eyes reflected the red warning lights. "The main power core is completely dead. We cannot restart it." Vell closed his eyes. 43 souls depended on him. 43 beings who trusted him to keep them safe in the vast emptiness of space. Now they were all going to die. Slowly. Suffocating in the darkness. "How long do we have?" Vell asked, though he feared the answer. "Maybe 6 hours, Captain. 8 if we shut down all non-essential systems. 8 hours. 8 hours for a miracle to happen. 8 hours for someone, anyone, to hear their call for help. Send out the SOS signal," Vell ordered. His voice was steady, but inside he felt like screaming. "Use all frequencies. Emergency channel, merchant frequencies, military bands, everything." Nira's hands moved quickly over her control panel. "Signal is broadcasting, Captain. Full power." The K message went out into the empty space around them. A simple cry for help repeated again and again in the universal trade language. "This is research vessel Harmony's Dream. We are stranded, life support failing, 43 crew members aboard. Please help, our position is..." The coordinates followed, marking their location in the vast ocean of stars. The signal traveled through space at the speed of light, spreading out in all directions. It would take time to reach anyone who might help. Time they did not have. Far away in a different part of space, the human ship Iron Maiden moved through the darkness like a metal beast. The ship was nothing like the elegant Vulcan vessel. Where Harmony's Dream was curved and beautiful, Iron Maiden was sharp and threatening. Heavy armor covered its hull. Weapon ports dotted its sides like the eyes of a monster. Warning lights marked it as dangerous to anyone who might think of attacking. On the bridge, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, drinking coffee from a metal cup. Jake was a big man with rough hands and scars on his face. His crew often joked that he looked like a pirate from old Earth stories. Jake did not mind the jokes. He had learned long ago that looking dangerous kept trouble away. "Captain," called out Kate Williams from her station. Kate was the ship's engineer and medic. She was smaller than Jake, but just as tough. "I'm picking up something on the emergency channel." Jake put down his coffee cup. "What kind of something?" "Distress signal." "Sounds like a research ship. They're in bad trouble." Lisa Parker, the ship's pilot, turned around in her seat. Everyone called her Ghost because she could fly through asteroid fields like she was invisible. "How far away are they?" Kate checked her instruments. "About 3 hours at full speed, but Captain..." She paused, looking worried. "But what?" Jake asked. "The signal is in Vulcan. I ran it through the translator. It's definitely a civilian research ship. No weapons, no military escort." Marcus Rodriguez, the weapons specialist, laughed from his station. Everyone called him Tank because he was built like one. "So, people in trouble are people in trouble. Doesn't matter what species they are." Jake nodded, but he knew it was not that simple. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy. A bad reputation. Most alien species were afraid of them. They called humans deathworlders. beings from a planet so dangerous that surviving on it made them nearly indestructible by galactic standards. Other species looked at humans and saw monsters. They saw beings who could breathe poison gas, live, in crushing gravity, and survive temperatures that would kill most life forms. They saw the weapons humans carried, the armor they wore, the way they moved like predators. What they did not see was the truth. Humans were dangerous, yes, but they were also protectors. They were the ones who ran toward danger when others ran away. They were the ones who helped strangers, even when those strangers feared them. "Kate, how long before their life support fails?" Jake asked. "Based on their signal, maybe 6 hours. Could be less." Jake stood up from his chair. 6 hours. They could reach the Vulcan ship in 3 hours if they pushed the engines hard. That would give them time to help, assuming the aliens would accept help from humans. "Ghost, set course for those coordinates, maximum speed." "You got it, Captain," Lisa said, her fingers dancing over the controls. "Tank, power up all systems. I want us ready for anything." "Already on it," Marcus replied. "Though I don't think we'll need weapons for a rescue mission." Jake hoped Tank was right, but in space you could never be sure what you might find. Pirates sometimes used fake distress signals to lure ships into traps. Hostile aliens might be waiting to attack anyone who responded. But as Jake watched the stars streak past the view screen as the Iron Maiden jumped to faster-than-light speed, he knew they were doing the right thing. It did not matter that the key beings in trouble probably feared humans. It did not matter that helping them might cause problems later. Someone was in danger. Someone needed help. That was enough. "ETA 3 hours, Captain," Ghost reported. "Good. Kate, start preparing medical supplies. We don't know what condition they'll be in when we reach them." "What kind of supplies?" "We don't know much about Vulcan. Biology." Jake smiled grimly. "Prepare everything. We'll figure it out when we get there." As the Iron Maiden raced through space toward the dying Vulcan ship, Jake wondered what they would find. Would the aliens accept help from the feared deathworlders? Would they be too scared to let humans aboard their ship? He did not know. But he knew one thing for certain. His crew would try their best to save those 43 lives. That was what humans did. That was who they were, no matter what the rest of the galaxy thought. The hunt was on. Not for prey, but for people to save. The Iron Maiden dropped out of faster-than-light speed with a deep rumble that shook the entire ship. Through the main view screen, the crew could see their destination, a sleek white vessel drifting helplessly in space like a wounded bird. "There she is," Ghost said softly. "The Harmony's Dream." Jake studied the alien ship through the scanner displays. It was beautiful in a way that human ships never were. Smooth curves instead of sharp angles. Artistic designs carved into the hull. Even dying in space, it looked more like a work of art than a machine of war. "Life signs?" Jake asked. Kate checked her instruments. 43 beings still alive, but their readings are weak. Their life support is almost gone. "Any weapons on that ship?" Tank laughed. "Captain, I've seen better weapons on a fishing boat. These people couldn't fight off an angry space rabbit." Jake nodded. That was what he expected. Most of the peaceful species in the galaxy built ships for exploration, not war. Only humans and a few other dangerous species built their ships to survive attacks. "Open a communication channel," Jake ordered. Ghost's fingers moved over her controls. "Channel open, Captain." Jake cleared his throat. He knew this would be the tricky part. Most aliens were terrified when humans contacted them. Some even fainted, just from hearing a human voice. "Vulcan vessel Harmony's Dream. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship Iron Maiden. We received your distress signal. We are here to help." Silence. Long, empty silence that seemed to stretch forever. On the bridge of the Harmony's Dream, Captain Vell stared at the communication panel like it had just grown teeth. Around him, his crew had gone completely still. Some of them were shaking. Did he say human?" whispered Nira. Vell's mouth felt dry. Humans. The Deathworlders had answered their call for help. The most feared species in the galaxy was sitting right outside their ship offering assistance. Every Velkan child grew up hearing stories about humans. They were monsters from a world of poison and fire. They breathed death itself and could crush bones with their bare hands. Their ships carried enough weapons to destroy planets. They were predators who hunted among the stars. But they were also here, and Captain Vel's people were dying. "Captain," Nira said quietly, "what do we do?" Vel looked around his bridge. Half his crew looked ready to run. The other half looked ready to faint. Everyone was waiting for him to make a decision that could save them all or doom them all. He thought about the stories, but he also thought about the human's voice. It had been deep and rough, yes. Scary, yes. But it had also sounded concerned. Could monsters feel concern? Vel reached for the communication controls with a shaking hand. Human ship Iron Maiden," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is Captain Vel of the Harmony's Dream. We accept your offer of help." On the Iron Maiden, Jake smiled. "Good. We're going to move closer to your ship. Don't be alarmed by our appearance. We mean no harm." He cut the channel and turned to his crew. "Ghost, take us in nice and slow. Kate, start preparing for emergency medical treatment. Tank, power down all weapon systems. I don't want to scare them more than we already have." "Too late for that, Captain," Tank said with a grin. "I bet they're all hiding under their beds right now." "Be nice, Tank. These people are probably more scared of us than we are of them." As the Iron Maiden moved closer to the Velkan ship, Jake could see the difference between their vessels more clearly. Where his ship looked like a weapon, theirs looked like a flower. Where his ship was built for war, theirs was built for peace. "Captain," Kate said, studying her scanners, "I'm reading their biology now. They're much more fragile than us. Lower bone density, thinner skin, weaker hearts. Their normal gravity is about 1/3 of Earth normal." Jake frowned. That was going to make this rescue very complicated. Everything about human ships was designed for human strength and human needs. The artificial gravity alone might crush the aliens. The air pressure might be too much for their lungs. Can we adjust our life support systems for them? I can try, but it won't be perfect. We might need to evacuate them to a safer area of our ship. Do what you can. Ghost, bring us alongside their ship. Careful now. If we bump into them, we might crack their hull. Captain Vel watched through his viewports as the human ship approached. It was massive compared to the Harmony's Dream. Dark metal covered in weapon ports and armor plating. Warning lights blinked along its hull like the eyes of a hunting beast. "By the stars?" breathed Nira. "It's a warship." "It's a merchant vessel," Vel corrected, reading the identification signals. But he understood her confusion. To Velkan eyes, even a human cargo ship looked like an instrument of destruction. The human ship moved with surprising grace for something so large and menacing. It positioned itself carefully next to the Harmony's Dream, close enough to help but not so close as to seem threatening. The communication channel crackled to life again. "Harmony's Dream, we're going to extend a docking tube to your ship. Once connected, we can begin evacuating your crew to safety." Vel's crew exchanged nervous glances. Going aboard a human ship was like walking into the mouth of a monster, but staying on their own ship meant certain death. "Understood, Iron Maiden. We will prepare our people." Jake watched as the docking tube extended from his ship to the alien vessel. It was a delicate operation. The Velkan ship was so fragile that too much pressure from the docking clamps might crush their airlock. "Connection secure," Ghost reported. "Their ship is sealed to ours." "Good. Kate, Tank, you're with me. Ghost, stay on the bridge and monitor both ships." Jake stood up and walked toward the airlock. This would be the real test. Most aliens who saw humans in person either ran away screaming or fainted from shock. These Velkans were trapped, they couldn't run. He just hoped they wouldn't all pass out when they saw him. At the airlock, Jake paused. Through the small window, he could see the other side of the docking tube. Waiting there was a tall, thin figure with blue skin and large, frightened eyes. Captain Vel, he assumed. The alien leader who had decided to trust the dangerous humans with his crew's lives. Jake took a deep breath and opened the airlock door. The real first contact was about to begin. Jake stepped through the airlock and into the docking tube. Each footstep echoed loudly in the metal corridor. At the other end, Captain Vell waited, trying to look brave but clearly terrified. When Jake reached the Velkin airlock, he had to duck, his head to fit through the doorway. The entire ship seemed built for beings much smaller and more delicate than humans. He moved slowly, carefully, like a giant trying not to break tiny glass sculptures. "Captain Vell," Jake said, keeping his voice as soft as possible. "I'm Captain Morrison." Vell looked up at the human towering above him. Jake was not even particularly tall for a human, but to Velkin eyes he looked like a mountain that could walk and talk. The alien's crystal blue eyes were wide with fear, but he stood his ground. "Captain Morrison," Vell replied, his voice shaking, slightly. "Thank you for answering our distress call." Behind Vell, other Velkins peered around corners and through doorways. Some gasped when they saw Jake, others simply stared in shock. A few quickly disappeared back into hiding. Jake noticed their reactions and felt bad for scaring them. "We're here to help," he said gently. "My crew is preparing our medical bay and emergency shelters for your people." "Our ship," Vell began, "cannot be repaired in time," Jake finished honestly. "I'm sorry, we'll have to evacuate everyone to the Iron Maiden." The idea of 43 Velkins boarding a human warship clearly terrified Captain Vell, but death terrified him more. "What do we need to do?" Vell asked. Kate and Tank joined Jake in the Velkin ship, carrying emergency medical supplies and portable life support units. The moment they entered, 3 Velkins fainted at the sight of Tank. He was built like his nickname suggested, wide, solid, and covered in scars from his military days. "Maybe I should wait outside," Tank whispered to Jake. "No, we need all hands for this evacuation." Kate knelt beside one of the unconscious Velkins, a young female with pale green skin. She pulled out her medical scanner, trying to get readings on alien biology she had never seen before. "Their heart rate is extremely fast," she reported. "Blood pressure through the roof. They're in shock." "From seeing us?" Jake asked. "From terror," Kate confirmed. "Captain, their entire nervous system is overloaded. Just being near us is like torture for them." Jake felt a stab of guilt. They were trying to save these people, but their very presence was causing harm. It was like being a fire trying to rescue ice. Any contact caused damage. "Can you help them?" Kate nodded, pulling out a small device. "I can give them something to calm their nerves, but we need to move fast. Their life support is failing rapidly." She administered the medicine to the unconscious Velkins. Within moments, their breathing became more regular, though they remained unconscious. "We need to carry them," Jake decided. "Tank, you take the heavy equipment. Kate, help me with the injured." Tank picked up a massive life support unit that would have required 3 Velkins to move. He carried it like it was a small bag. The watching aliens stared in amazement and fear at this display of casual strength. The evacuation began slowly. Jake picked up the first unconscious Velkin as gently as he could, but even his careful touch felt crushing to the delicate alien. Captain Vell watched nervously as the human giant carried his crew member toward the docking tube. "Please be careful," Vell pleaded. "Our bones are not as strong as yours." "I know," Jake replied. "I'm being as gentle as I can." But what felt gentle to a human was still overwhelming to a Velkin. Jake's normal walking pace shook the fragile being in his arms. His breathing sounded like wind through a storm. Even his heartbeat audible through his chest was loud and frightening to sensitive Velkin ears. Kate followed behind, monitoring the alien's vital signs. "Heart rate is still too high but stable. Keep moving, Captain." One by one, they carried the unconscious Velkins to the Iron Maiden. The ship's medical bay had been modified as much as possible. Lower gravity, softer lighting, quieter air circulation. But it was still a human environment, built for human needs. The conscious Velkins were even more challenging. They could walk on their own, but every step aboard the human ship was a struggle. The artificial gravity, set to Earth normal, felt crushing to their fragile bones. The air pressure made them feel like they were drowning. "I can't," "I can't breathe," gasped one young Vulcan male as Kate helped him to a medical bed. "The air is different here," Kate explained, adjusting an oxygen mask for his face. "This will help." But it was not just the air. Everything about the human ship was too intense, too strong, too much for beings evolved on a gentle world. The crisis came when they were halfway through the evacuation. Captain Vel, exhausted from stress and lack of oxygen, collapsed in the docking tube. His legs gave out and he fell hard on the metal floor. Jake reached him first but stopped himself from touching the alien. His hands, strong enough to bend metal, might accidentally crush Vel's fragile body. "Kate," he called. Kate rushed over with her medical scanner. "He's in cardiac arrest. His heart can't handle the stress." "Can you help him?" "I don't know. I've never treated a Vulcan before. Their biology is completely different from ours." Jake knelt beside the dying alien captain, feeling helpless. Here was a being who had trusted him, who had put his crew's lives in human hands, and Jake could not even touch him without causing harm. "What do you need?" Jake asked Kate. "I need to understand his heart structure, but our medical database has no information on Vulcans." Tank appeared in the doorway. "The rest of his crew is asking for him. They're getting panicked." Jake made a decision. "Kate, do whatever you think is best. I don't care if it's risky, he's dying anyway." Kate nodded and pulled out her medical tools. Her hands, trained by years of emergency medicine, moved carefully over the alien's chest. She had to guess at anatomy, working from basic principles and hope. "His heart has 4 chambers instead of 2, she murmured, studying her scanner readings. "The rhythm is all wrong." She administered a mild stimulant, the weakest dose her equipment could deliver. For a human, it would be barely noticeable. For a Vulcan, it was like a lightning bolt. Captain Vel's eyes snapped open. He gasped, his 4-chambered heart racing back to life. "Easy," Kate said softly. "You're going to be okay." Vel looked up at the humans surrounding him. These terrifying deathworlders who could accidentally kill him with a gentle touch. These monsters who were risking everything to save his people. "Why?" he whispered. Jake smiled. "Because you needed help." The evacuation continued. One by one, all 43 Vulcans were brought aboard the Iron Maiden. Some remained unconscious from shock. Others stayed awake but trembled constantly from fear and the stress of the alien environment. Jake's crew worked tirelessly to make their guests comfortable. They dimmed the lights, lowered the artificial gravity in the guest quarters, and even played soft music to mask the frightening sounds of the human ship. But despite their efforts, the cultural gap remained enormous. What was safe for humans was dangerous for Vulcans. What was comfortable for humans was torture for Vulcans. Still, they were alive, all 43 of them. The rescue operation was a success, even if it was the most terrifying experience of the Vulcans' lives. As Jake looked at his ship's medical bay, filled with fragile aliens recovering from their ordeal, he wondered what would happen next. How could 2 species so different ever understand each other? The answer would come in time. 3 days had passed since the rescue. The Iron Maiden was now traveling toward the nearest space station, carrying 43 frightened Vulcan passengers. The human crew had done everything they could to make their guests comfortable, but living on a human ship was like being trapped inside a weapon. Captain Vel sat in the modified guest quarters, watching his people through the reinforced viewing window. Most of them huddled together in small groups, whispering fearfully about their situation. Some refused to eat the human food, even though it had been tested safe for Vulcan biology. Others jumped at every sound the ship made. A soft knock came at his door. Vel's heart raced. Even the gentlest human knock sounded like thunder to Vulcan ears. "Come in," he called weakly. Captain Morrison entered, moving as slowly and carefully as a giant trying not to step on ants. He carried a small tray with food and what looked like Vulcan tea. "How are your people doing?" Jake asked, setting the tray down with extreme care. "They are alive," Vel replied. "Thanks to you and your crew. But they are struggling." Jake nodded, sadly. He had seen the fear in every Vulcan face. Even when his crew tried to help, the aliens would shrink away or sometimes faint from terror. I brought you some tea. Kate analyzed your food preferences and tried to make something familiar. Vel picked up the cup with shaking hands. The liquid inside was almost the right color, but it smelled wrong. Everything human-made smelled wrong to Velkin's senses. Captain Morrison, Vel said carefully, may I ask you something? Of course. Why? Did you save us? Your people, humans. They are feared throughout the galaxy. Many species consider you dangerous predators. You could have ignored our distress call. No one would have blamed you. Jake was quiet for a long moment, staring out the small viewport at the stars rushing past. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft and thoughtful. On my world, Earth, we have a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. We humans are strong, yes. Our world made us that way. But being strong doesn't mean we use that strength to hurt others. It means we use it to protect those who can't protect themselves. Vel studied the human's face. Despite his scary appearance, the thick bones, the dense muscles, the predator's eyes, there was something gentle in his expression. Your world made you strong? Vel asked. Jake smiled grimly. Earth is not a kind planet, Captain. Our gravity is 3 times what you're used to. Our atmosphere would poison most species. We have storms that can level cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, and temperatures that swing from freezing to burning. Vel listened in amazement. No wonder humans seemed so tough. They came from a world that was trying to kill them every day. But it's not just the physical challenges, Jake continued. Earth taught us something else. It taught us that survival depends on helping each other. When a storm comes, you don't ask if your neighbor is the same color as you or believes the same things you do. You help them because next time you might be the one who needs help. Later that day, Vel decided to explore more of the human ship. His people thought he was crazy, but he needed to understand these strange beings who had saved them. He made his way slowly through the corridors, using the walls for support against the crushing gravity. Everything about the ship spoke of violence and danger. The walls were thick metal built to withstand weapons fire. Emergency stations contained tools that looked like torture devices.